Welcome to Naresh Technologies. My name is Mahesh. I'm taking Java and Android classes training in Naresh IT. So in my previous videos, I explained few topics like what is Android, what are the features of Android, what are the components, what is the project structure, what is activity lifecycle, okay? And we've seen our first high-level application we've seen in the last classes, in my previous videos, okay? So today, in this session, I'll explain you a most important concept for a mobile application developer, okay? And every mobile application developer should have a strong knowledge on this concept. Okay. So what is that concept is web services. So before going to discuss what exactly these web services and what is the need of web services in the mobile applications, let's try to understand what exactly the need of web services. If we take few applications, for example, I'll show you few applications. So this is my phone preview. I'm using a software called Visor for displaying my phone preview. So there is an app called Abibus is an app. In this Abibus app, if you give the input like what is a from and what is a to address and select the date and click on this search button. So based on the request, what is a from and what is a to you specified, you're going to get some details. You're going to get the bus details. See here, we got some response. We got all these are the buses which are available from Hyderabad to Nandyal, for example. Okay, so from where this data is a fetch, I mean from where we got the data. Is it the entire data whatever we received here, is it available in the mobile phone? Is it the data is available in the mobile phone, this entire data? Alright, the data is not available in the mobile phone. And like this, if you take any application, any banking application, any matrimony applications, or if you take any now Hotstar or any applications, basically if you take a Flipkart, Amazon, or these kind of applications are retrieving some data and they are showing some data. They are showing from where they are retrieving the data. They are retrieving the data from their server side database. They are retrieving the data. Come on boss, why you had to retrieve the data from the server side? Why can't you store the data in the phone database? So if you store the data in phone database, we are having few drawbacks. So we'll understand that what are the drawbacks of storing the data in phone database and what is the need of going for this server side databases. Let's try to understand first of all what is the need of going for the server side database. Assume that I'm creating an Android application. I'm creating an Android application. So I have a requirement of storing some data. Let's take in Android, one of the database in Android is nothing but if you want to store the data, we are having a database called SQLite is the database. If you want to store some data, what is the database? SQLite is the database. Let's store the data in SQLite database. But storing the data in SQLite database is having few drawbacks. Storing the data in your phone SQLite database is having a few drawbacks. Let's see what are the drawbacks. The first drawback is nothing but we can store very limited data. We can store in the SQLite database, not even MBs. We can store the data in KBs. You can store the data. You cannot store the huge amount of data. We cannot store in the SQLite database. Very limited amount of data only we can store in the SQLite database. That is the first drawback of storing the data in SQLite database. The data storage capacity is very limited because the data is storing in the phone, right? So data storage capacity is very limited within the KBs, not even in the MBs. That is the first drawback of storing the data in SQLite database. Second drawback is nothing but if you store the data in SQLite database, where you can access the data is only within this particular device. Only in one phone only we can access the data. In other devices we cannot access the data. These are the two drawbacks of storing the data in phone database. One is the data is very limited. Second thing is nothing but the data is specific to that particular device. Other devices cannot access the data. What kind of applications you can develop with these two things? Limited storage capacity and data is accessible only in that particular device. Other device cannot access. So what kind of applications you can develop with this thing? We can develop, let's take your phone contacts, storing your phone contacts in your phone database. Second thing is nothing but your game high level information or low level information, a login kind of credentials like keep me sign in. When you select the keep me sign in, next time onwards don't need to ask the login username and password. So if you want to store some limited data, then you can use this SQLite database you can use. If you have a requirement of storing the limited amount of data, that data is specific to only that particular phone, then at that time you can use this SQLite database you can use. But you can find These type of applications are very rare. Very rarely you will find these kind of applications requirement in the present market. If you take any client, I mean any applications, if you take the present market, the requirement is first thing is data can be accessed by anywhere from the world. If I store some data, that data can be accessed by what? Anywhere from the world. It can be accessed from different places and different devices. That is the first requirement. Data can be accessed by anywhere from the world. Second thing is nothing but there should not be a limit for storing the data. Even in SQL database, the data is going to be stored in hardly in KBs. So very limited. But here the client's requirement is nothing but there should not be a limit for storing the data. Maybe right now if I have, for example, 100 users, okay, in future maybe I'll get 1000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh, correct, right or not? So the data should be in a increasable, I mean a resizable manner, meaning it has to be increased automatically. If I get any requirement of increasing the database, so it should be in a position to increase the database. So these are two my requirements. Let's take, there should not be a limit for storing the data. Second thing is nothing but the data can be accessed by anywhere from the world. To achieve these two things, let me list out here. There should not be a limit for storing the data. There should not be a limit for storing the data. This is our first requirement. Second thing is nothing but data can be accessed by anywhere from the world. These two are my requirements. There should not be a limit and data can be accessed by anywhere from the world. To achieve these two things, I am not storing the data in my phone database. I am not storing the data. To achieve these two things, I am not storing the data in my phone database. I am not storing the data. Then where you have to store this data? So we'll store this data into, okay, I'm removing this one because I'm not storing the data in your phone, in the phone database. Let's store this data into any one of the database servers. So we are having some, domain hosting servers like GoDaddy, Rackspace, or these kind of servers. If you pay the money, if you pay to that hosting servers, you will get a domain name, you will get, as well as you can host your application, you can host in that servers. Okay, maybe probably you guys are aware of that, what exactly that GoDaddy, the most commonly used term in the industry. Okay, right, GoDaddy or Rackspace, there's a lot of things are there. So if you buy a space, if you buy in the hosting server, you can install a database server, you can install in the database server. In the hosting servers, you can install a database server, you can install, like we are having different database servers are there, like SQL server, MySQL, SQL server, MySQL, Oracle. So like this we are having different database servers. Like this we are having what? Different database servers we are having. So you can store the data into any one of these database servers, you can store the data. But the problem is nothing but the challenge is here, directly we cannot communicate. A mobile application, it may be an Android application or an iPhone application. A mobile application directly cannot communicate with the database server. This communication is not possible now. A mobile application directly cannot communicate with the database servers. This communication, hitting the server and get the response from the server, this communication is not possible in the present market now. An Android application or iPhone application directly cannot communicate with the database servers. Then what is the solution then? Because to achieve these two things, if you install the database, if you store the data in these database servers, okay, you can there is no any limit for storing the data. If you pay the money, they'll increase your database size, they'll increase, and the data can be accessed by anywhere from the world. Okay, fine, but the challenge is what? This Android application or an iPhone application cannot communicate with the database servers directly. Then what is the solution? Solution is this communication is not possible from our Android application, but this communication is possible by using any one of the web technologies. By using any one of the web technologies like Java, .NET or PHP, by using Java, .NET or PHP, by using any one of these web technologies, Java, .NET or PHP, you can communicate with the database server. Meaning this direct communication is not possible. Our Android application directly cannot communicate with the database server. That's why this communication is possible with what? This communication is possible with Java, .NET or PHP, any one of the web technologies. This communication is possible. So what the mobile application will do is, an Android application or iPhone application cannot communicate with the database server. So what this mobile application developer will do is, mobile application developer will take a support of this web applications. I have a requirement of communicating with the database server. So directly this communication is not possible. That's why the mobile applications will communicate with these web technologies. Hey boss, I want to communicate with the database server. A mobile application can communicate with these web technologies. The web technology is going to communicate with what? Database server. Even the response also same thing. Even the response also directly you cannot fetch the data from the database server. So we'll make a request to these web technologies. The web technology is going to communicate database server, and the web technology is going to give the response to your application. Okay, this is the present architecture in the market, meaning how the mobile applications are developing in the present market. This is the present architecture. We have a requirement of storing some huge amount of data, and we have a requirement of accessing the data from anywhere from the world. So to achieve these two things, the direct communication with the database server is not possible. That's why we are taking a support of any one of these web technologies, and these web technologies, with the help of these web technologies, we are communicating with what? From the database server we are communicating. One technical challenge here is nothing but, let's take Android application. The programming language here we are using for developing this Android application is nothing but Java. In case of iOS app, we use a code called Swift. The challenge here is nothing but, okay, this is a present architecture, okay, fine. So one challenge is there in this one. The challenge is nothing but, imagine the server side, they are using a technology called .NET and the database called SQL Server. Server side they are using a technology called what? .NET technology, the server side using. Okay, we cannot communicate database server, so we decided that to communicate with this web technology to communicate with the database server. But if you want to communicate with this web technology, imagine the web technology is using a concept called .NET. At the web technology side, they are using what? .NET technology they are using. But here, an Android application we are developing by using what? Java we are developing. So if you send this Java code, if you send to your .NET, if you send this Java code, if you send Java, and everything will represent as an object format. We know that in Java. If you send this Java object, if you send to your .NET, a .NET system cannot understand the Java object. In the same way, if you get the .NET response, if you get a Java system cannot understand the .NET response. That is a problem now. If you send the Java object, a .NET system cannot understand the Java object. If you get the .NET response, a Java system cannot understand the .NET response. What is the problem for this? What is the solution for this problem now? Solution is very simple. Let's take, I'm taking a simple example I'm taking here. There are two different people from different backgrounds. Let's take, for example, this is one guy from AP. Let's take, his mother tongue is Telugu. There is a person, this person is from what? From AP, his mother tongue is what? Telugu is his mother tongue. There is one more person, and this person is from Tamil Nadu. Let's take, his mother tongue is Tamil. This person is from Tamil Nadu, his mother tongue is what? Tamil is his mother tongue. Tamil is his mother tongue. Let's take, if this guy says anything in Telugu, the Tamil person cannot understand that. The Tamil person cannot understand the Telugu. So the Tamil person don't know what he is talking. In the same way, if this person is given the response in Tamil, the Telugu person cannot understand the Tamil response. So then, how will provide? What is the solution for this one? If this guy is from AP, the mother tongue is Telugu, and this guy is from Tamil Nadu, his mother tongue is Tamil, is his mother tongue. So what is the solution for this one? The solution is, the simple solution is, arey boss, don't communicate in either in Telugu or Tamil. Don't communicate either in Telugu or Tamil. Use a common language like what? English. Correct or not? If this guy talks anything in Telugu, the Tamil person cannot understand. If you get the response in Tamil, Telugu person cannot understand the Tamil response. So we cannot provide the communication, we cannot provide like this, the Java to .NET and all. So the simple solution for this problem is nothing but, don't use either Telugu or Tamil. Use what? Use a common language. Use a common language like, for example, English. Use a common language like English. Okay, one problem has solved. By using a common language, you can provide a communication between these two people, you can provide a communication. Second thing is nothing but, is it only the common language sufficient? You know, I seen few people or, two people are talking in English, but they cannot understand each other. Come on boss, you said if you use a common language, you can provide a communication, right? Even though if you are using a common language, we had to follow some rules we had to follow. Correct or not? If you don't follow the rules, even though if you are using the language, common language, same English language, we cannot provide the communication, because whatever the rules I know, maybe the other person know the different rules. So apart from the common language, if you want to provide a communication, if you want to provide, we required one more thing, that is nothing but both has to follow the same grammar rules. First thing is common language. Second thing is what? Both has to follow the same grammar rules, both has to follow, then only we can provide a communication. Okay, fine, I'm using a common language, I'm using a grammar rules I'm using. Next, apart from these two things, what is required? This person is talking something, this person is talking, right? How this person will receive that data? Let's say this person is talking something, this person is talking. How the other person will receive that data? How the other person will receive the data? And if you know they both are directly, let's take a face to face. If first person talks anything, how the second person will receive that one is, there should be a medium, correct or not? There should be a medium to transfer the data. In case of, there should be a medium to transfer the data. In case of these two people, a face to face communication, that medium is nothing but air is the medium. In case of these two guys are talking in a phone, then at that time what is the medium here? Phone, right? Okay, we understand that if you want to provide a communication, if you want to provide for providing a communication between these two people, so we required these three things are required. We require a common language, we require a grammar rules, we require a medium. Now the same concept will apply for technologies. Let's take you have a requirement of providing the communication between two different technologies. Have a requirement of providing the communication between what? Two different technologies. Let's take one is Java. One more thing is what? .NET. You have a requirement of providing the communication between two different technologies. You have a requirement of providing the communication. Now same like Telugu and Tamil, here also these are the two different programming languages. These are what? The two different programming languages. If you want to provide a communication between these two programming languages, first thing we have to use a common language. You have to use. So if this Java sends a Java object, the .NET system cannot understand the Java object. The same way, if you get the .NET response, a Java system cannot understand the .NET response, right? So like how we followed the common language in case of the two people, here also we have to use a common language for providing the communication between two different technologies. In case of technologies, what is the common language we use? So the most widely used formats, the most widely used common languages here is nothing but XML or JSON. XML, and now the latest format is what? JSON. Apart from these two things, even you can transfer the data in text file, .txt file you can transfer, and you can transfer in .csv format also you can transfer, but there are some issues with these .csv and .txt formats. It's a readability issues are there, but XML and JSON is most widely used formats to transfer the data. I mean the common language between the technologies here is nothing but XML and JSON is a common language. Like English is it's a generic and unique language. You can talk with any other person, right? In the same way here, the XML and JSON is a common language between the technologies. Second thing is nothing but rules. In case of technologies, the rules will be defined by using some protocol. In case of technologies, the rules are defined by using what? The protocols. We are having HTTP, SMTP, FTP. So we are having different protocols. In case of technologies, the rules will be defined by using what? The protocol rules will be defined. And third thing is nothing but medium. What is the third one? Medium. In case of technologies, we know that one system, if you want to communicate from one system to another system. So what is the medium here in case of technologies? Either it may be a local area network or it may be what? An internet. It may be a local area network or it may be what? An internet. So if you want to provide a communication between two different technologies, a Java to .NET, .NET to PHP, PHP to Android, PHP to iPhone, iPhone to Java. If you want to provide a communication between two different technologies, if you want to provide a communication, so we require these three things. So we have to use a common language we have to use, we have to use a protocol we have to use, and we have to use what? A medium we have to use to transfer the data. Now web services concept is nothing but the definition of web services is a distributed technology. It's a distributed technology, and web services is used to provide a communication between two different technologies. This is the definition of web services. Web services is used to provide a communication between two different technologies or two same technologies. It's not a textbook answer. Even practically I seen in my experience, and this is definition which I faced, and as per my experience I define the definition. Web services is used to provide a communication between two different technologies and two same technologies. It's no need to be a Java and .NET or .NET to .NET to PHP and all. Even if you want, you can provide a communication between two same technologies. Also, you can provide a communication, a Java to Java, Java to PHP, PHP to .NET. So I'll recall the definition again. Web services is used to provide a communication between two different technologies or two same technologies. This is what the definition of web services. It's a distributed technology which is used to provide a communication between what? Two different technologies or two same technologies. Okay. So now here our requirement is, meaning as a mobile application developer, the requirement is communicating with this any one of the web technologies. For communicating with these web technologies, we had to use a common language, we had to use some protocols, we had to use what? There is a medium to transfer the data. So these three things, a process of communicating with the other technologies by using these three things, that is nothing but what? Web services. Okay. And mainly here there are two types of web services are there. There are types of web services. There are what? Two types of web services are there. One is the SOAP based web services and second thing is what? RESTful web services. I'm telling you again, it's not a theoretical definition what I define. It's like the definition which I define, meaning what I seen in my experience, what exactly web services, that definition I given here. It is used to provide a communication between two different technologies or two same technologies. Okay. And here, and how it is providing the communication with two different technologies with the help of these three things: a common language, the rules and the protocols. There are two types of web services are there. One is a SOAP based web services and the RESTful web service. The SOAP based web service is a heavyweight web service, meaning we require a lot of environment is required for this SOAP based web services, and the data is transferred in XML format. The data is transferred. Okay. Basically, when we have to prefer this SOAP based web services is, if your client concern is a security is a major concern. If your client concern is security is a major concern than the performance, then prefer to go with what? The SOAP based web services. If your client concern is the performance than the security, if your client concern is the performance than the security, then it's preferred to use the RESTful web service. Of course, even by using some mechanisms, using some security mechanisms, even we can provide that security. We can provide even in the RESTful web service also. We can provide that security. We can provide. Okay. So right now there are two types of web services are there: the SOAP based web services and the RESTful web service. Now for the mobile application development, RESTful is most preferred than the SOAP based web service. Okay. So I told you, right, if security is a major concern, then definitely there is no option. We have to choose this SOAP based web services. Performance is a major concern than the security, then it's preferred to go with what? The RESTful web service. Okay. So this is about the web service introduction. Just in this video I explained what exactly web services, what is the need of web services in the mobile application development, how many types of web services and all.